I want to show you something. It is documents by rights I should not have. No one should, except for the men and women whose job it is to keep us safe when we fly. These are the documents right here, 93 pages worth, detailing the equipment that the TSA uses, the details who doesn't have to be screened, what passes look like that can actually get you through security. Sensitive details in these documents on how the TSA works, where the system's vulnerable, and how a bad guy could exploit those weak points. Now, I'm not going to read you the details in these documents because they do add up to a how-to manual for terrorists. But the TSA posted those documents, all 93 pages, online in another government website for would-be contractors to read. They had the sensitive bits kind of blacked out, but the redactions were simple to remove. So now the entire document is out there uncut. Joining us now to talk about this breach of security is Clark Kent Ervin, former Inspector General for the Office of Homeland Security, also former TSA Air Marshal Robert McLean. Clark, this isn't just a casual memo. I mean, this is a comprehensive, detailed plan on airline security. How bad a breach of security is this?
It's really huge, Anderson. As you said in the lead-in, this is really the most serious security breach on TSA's part since 9/11 and since TSA's creation in 2002.
The worst breach since 9/11.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it this morning. It really couldn't be bigger. And it comes against a backdrop, as you know, of other serious breaches on TSA's part. You know, nearly every year on a quarterly basis almost, there's another report showing screeners' inability to spot concealed guns and knives and bombs. There's a recent GAO report that shows the TSA having spent almost $1 billion to deploy 10 technologies, and we're not sure if those technologies work. No cost analysis performed. And there's an IG report out in the last few days that says that millions of dollars of equipment is wasted. But this is far and away the most serious breach that's happened to date.
Robert, you were an air marshal. You got fired from the TSA for disclosing information that you said showed the agency was cutting corners on flight security. How does something like this happen?
Well, it looks like it had to have been a manager or a TSA lawyer that carefully tried to redact a document that was already fully marked as sensitive security information. So this was definitely not done at a lower level.
And do you agree that it's a huge breach of security, biggest since 9/11?
Absolutely. It pretty much, it gives up everything. It's a playbook for anything you want to know to get through the screening process. With the IDing systems, the explosive trace systems, who gets exempted, certain screening procedures. It just has way too much information on there.
Yeah, I mean, it literally shows the passes that a CIA officer could use, or an air marshal like yourself could use, or anybody could use in order to get through security. Clark, the TSA is saying, well, look, this was just one of many security plans. It was outdated. It was never implemented. But I mean, you know, let's keep them honest here. How could this plan be so different from others? There are only so many ways you can screen airline passengers at an airport.
That's exactly right, Anderson. They say that there have been 6 updates, revisions of this manual since this was posted. We'll see. There's an investigation that's underway. We'll see if that's true. I really find it hard to believe for precisely the reason you say. There are only so many measures that can be used. A second thing TSA says is what it says routinely when this kind of thing happens, although, again, this is the most egregious, and that's that there are multiple levels of security, layers of security, and this is only one layer. I would argue that the whole system is only as strong as its weakest link. And as links and layers go, this is the most serious one. The checkpoint is the last opportunity, usually, and almost always really, before passengers are screened for weapons. And if they get past the checkpoint, they are highly unlikely to be checked again at the gate. So this couldn't be more serious.
Well, also, Robert, it's not as if, you know, the folks who would want to hijack an airplane or do something at an airport are dumb. They do dry runs. We know that the 9/11 hijackers did that. We just have this case now of an American who apparently did dry runs for Mumbai terrorists before the Mumbai attacks, like 2 years in advance, scoping out areas in India to attack. So, I mean, it's not as if they're not going to be reading this document that's out there.
Well, and it puts so much stress already on these screeners that they have a lot of pressure to get this right. And now, if they get by them, now you got to consider it's now the air marshals that got to worry about who gets through here. So there's just, and now we have nervous passengers on the holidays. It's just everybody around in this is definitely going to be upset about this.
So Clark, I mean, what's the takeaway? Someone sitting at home, you know, I mean, there's not much you can do about this. This is a mistake somebody else made, but where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, that really is the key question, and my answer to it really is twofold. First of all, TSA has got to change tonight, I hope it happened earlier today, the procedures that were put in place in that document. Where there were relaxed procedures identified, those procedures should be tightened. Where vulnerabilities in deployed equipment were identified, that equipment needs to be supplemented, if it's possible to supplement it with additional measures. That's the first point. The second point is accountability. There's got to be a full investigation of this. I hope it's done not by TSA internally, but by the independent inspector general. And then whoever, one person or people who are found to be responsible for this have to be held accountable. They've got to be fired. And if the negligence is so gross, perhaps criminal charges should be considered, because this cannot be allowed to happen again.
Yeah, and I just want to remind our viewers, we're not giving out any actual details that were in this thing, although frankly anybody who was online could have gotten the details right out of this document. But we're not doing anything to actually give details. But without doing the story, I mean, nothing's going to change. Robert McLean, appreciate your time tonight. Clark Kent Irvin, thank you very much as well. Disturbing stuff. We'll see what's done about it. Up